High school is not engaging or effective. Even worse, American teenagers fare quite poorly compared to our out-of-country peers. But most importantly, high schools don't properly teach students what they need for college, so that many need remedial education or drop out. A study done by Professor Reed Larson and Maurice Richards shows how boredom plays a role in the classroom. In Richard and Larson's survey conducted across the nation, adolescents reported frequent boredom, and not surprisingly, this boredom, diminished attention, interfered with academic performance, and was a frequent reason for dropping out of high school. According to Larson's model of boredom, this negative emotion comes when people are forced to expend mental effort on tasks that they perceive to be monotonous or under-arousing, as opposed to the common misconception that boredom comes with just performing monotonous tasks. This new model can explain why students get bored after performing complex tasks. Ultimately, Larson's model suggests that boredom stems from the frustration that comes from performing tasks that are painfully difficult, thus explaining why classes that are incredibly complex and abstract could be considered boring. To see exactly what our teenagers are capable of, an international test shows how 15-year-old Americans fare against their peers in other countries. PISA, a standardized test that assesses reading, math, and science, shows the devastating reality that is American teenagers' academic ability. The US scored well below average in all three subjects in 2012. Although scores for all three subjects stagnated in between 2012 and 2009, several other countries must have improved because they significantly increased within those 3 years. In math, we dropped from 23rd to 29th, 18th to 22nd in science, and 9th to 19th in English. What these results show is that our current technique for education as a whole is failing us. And although we are not exactly sure what we need to change, we know we need to change something. Finally, an overwhelming amount of students need remedial education. According to the National Post-Secondary Student Aid Survey, 1 in 5 four-year college students and nearly 1/2 of community college students need remedial education their freshman year. These remediations place a huge toll on families, costing them nearly $1.5 billion each year. These payments account for both the remedial classes and for higher costs in tuition and fees because these students often get held back. Cost is not the only issue with this phenomenon either, as 73% of kids end up dropping out. A reasonable explanation for this phenomenon of remediation is that an abundance of families have a low income rate and their local high schools fail to teach the children the necessary material. Surprisingly, this hypothesis can be easily dismissed because 45% of kids who need remedial education are of middle to high income families. This shows that something is inherently wrong in the way that we teach high school kids across both ends of the socioeconomic ladder, and families from both ends of this ladder are paying for this shortcoming. For the family of 8 practically living in a shed, whose parents are working 5 jobs at a time just to barely afford a meal for their kids, is this shortcoming of the government really fair? Overall, our current shortcomings in academic ability beg for some sort of reform in education. Even though we don't know exactly what will fix our problems, looking to places such as Shanghai and Singapore for inspiration can be a starting point. Have you ever wondered why Chinese kids seem to do so well most of the time? Will threat, or I will chop you up. Make no baby. And tell baby what you did. Is the main reason that Shanghainese students and American students score so differently. Studies show that Shanghainese parents are only content with their children scoring higher than what they think they're capable of achieving. On the other hand, American parents are happy with mediocrity. This distinction in culture no doubt plays an unparalleled role in the difference between Shanghainese and American levels of achievement. But that brings about the question, is America doomed because of its unmotivated culture?